Record. Imagine that you are taking a real trial, which is actually the case because all of these questions are real. Okay? Immediately you go for the writing questions. Why? Because the writing questions are less time consuming. Less time consuming. You will not waste time answering the writing questions because they are more direct and they are relying or they rely on rules that you must know by heart. ف this type مثلا you will always find this type of questions at the very end of each module. This is the rhetorical synthesis question. The rhetorical synthesis question أو the note taking. The note taking, the student's notes. Okay, we will focus on the goal. The student wants to identify, this is the goal, identify a language. A means one. Language means one language that was written, okay, was written using the cuneiform script. Okay, using this kind of script. In such a question, you don't have to go for the notes since the goal is very clear. If the goal is not clear, so if it is clear, the goal is clear, يبقى go for the choices. If the goal is unclear, go for the notes. If the goal is unclear, يعني you couldn't understand the goal, go for the notes. Go for the notes. تمام. Now here this is a clear goal actually. I want a language that was written using this kind of script. And go, most of you, mashallah, went for the right answer. Sumerian, an ancient Mesopotamian language. So this one is a language. Was written, yes, was written using, yes, the whole thing is there. Done, mission accomplished. So the other ones aren't fulfilling the goal. طيب, let's go for this one. And this one is a transition question. One main thing you must master in order to be able to handle the transition questions is that you must memorize the transition words, or at least the most common transition words in SAT, the most frequently tested ones. And these transitions are divided into 8 groups, or I personally divide them into 8 groups according to the relationships they convey. يعني some of the transition words convey an emphasis relationship. Okay, يعني and the relationship emphasis يعني conveys emphasis, like indeed. And specifically, it can be given you an example or emphasis. Okay, so these might be eliminated together. Alternatively, this has to do with contrast, two different ideas or two different options. In other words, that's a restatement or a summary. For you to use in other words, you must define that this part is a restatement, يعني saying the exact thing, but in fewer words, restatement or summary. As you can see, summary means brief restatement. So now I'm stuck between these two. As you can see, the transitions that convey the same relationship will be cancelled. But if I don't know, if I didn't memorize that indeed and specifically are very similar, you might be facing a problem. So that's why I'm telling you, you must memorize the most frequently tested transitions and their relationships. Otherwise, you won't be answering these questions smoothly. Now, my mission is to find the relationship between this one, this sentence, and the sentence that has the blank. طيب, whether these two sentences are expressing or are introducing two different things or two different objects, or this one is a summary of this one. Let's read. When ordering the branches of Yukon River system by Hack's method, so this is a method, one begins with the riverway's lowest point, the Yukon River. طيب, when using whatever method, this is another method, that's another, so this is a method and this is another different method. One begins at the top of the river. Here the lowest point, here the top of the river. خلاص, I got it. This is not a summary of what has been mentioned. We have two different ideas, two different methods. That's it. Here we go. Let's go for this one. However, this has to do with contradiction. This has to do with contradiction, and this also has to do with contradiction, contrast. Also, it may refer to some two actions happening at the same time, but most of the time, it can refer to a contradiction. So I will erase or eliminate both of them. For example, given an example, يعني moving from general to specific, and additionally is addition. Addition means you're adding a new idea, adding a new idea to the same subject, to the same subject. So I know that when I use additionally, I must define the same subject and I add a new idea to it with the same tone. فهنا generally, this one is a clue word. Generally, I'm talking generally. Sleek vehicles are more aerodynamic than bulkier ones. Okay, nice. So this one is general, general. So the next one that has the blank, the streamlined nose of whatever star fighter jet helps it glide through wind with relative ease. Okay, so here this one is specific example. Okay, example to the sleek vehicles that are more aerodynamic. Aero has to do with air, and wind has to do with air. Okay, it helps it glide through wind with relative ease. So I'm not adding a new idea. I'm technically saying that this vehicle, which is one of these sleek vehicles, is able to glide through wind with relative ease, so it's more aerodynamic. Okay, right, let's go for this one. This is a punctuation question. How I know it's a punctuation question or boundaries? You can say punctuation or you can say boundaries. Okay, okay. Usually guys, يعني during our the test solving courses, okay, I usually like the students to interact and can participate and explain and so on. But during, of course, the free sessions, this might be not available. This might not be available since we have many students from everywhere. Some of you, some of whom I know nothing about them. فإن order not to يعني embarrass anyone, in our course everyone will have the chance. Whoever wants to volunteer, of course they can do that smoothly and easily. طيب, here we have here punctuation or boundaries, and for punctuation and boundaries you must study the rules by heart. يبقى the rules must be studied by heart, by heart. It's just like what now I stressed this stressed two lessons to be studied by heart. The transitions and the punctuation rules. Otherwise, you will not be able to answer quickly or comfortably, like okay, like what? Like math. You know the rules, you can answer, also solve the equations or the problems. The same is applied to the writing questions. طيب, here we have what? We have a comma here, and we have two commas there. We have two semicolons. When we have two semicolons, we must search for a semicolon and. Okay, a semicolon and or a semicolon or. Because it's gonna be a complex list. طيب, here we don't have a complex list since like the let's read first and see. Okay, I'm gonna read from the beginning of the sentence till its end. You must do that. You cannot read till the blank only. This is a fatal mistake. You must read the whole sentence that has the blank. That's a very, very precious tip. يعني you must, stick to this tip. In Puerto Rico, and this is what an introductory part, I don't care about it. It is a subject and a verb. Not usual for a city or town to be known by a nickname that corresponds to one of its notable features. Complete thought. يبقى البارت ده كده extra of its notable features. Like ايه بقى؟ landscape one, landscape, وبعدين climate, famous residence. طبعا climate is another item لأن I cannot say climate famous residence. That can't be. So climate and famous residence, they must be separated by a comma. So letter A and letter B will be eliminated. هنا yes, this climate famous residence or chief exports. يبقى كده I have a list. The list. What is the rule of the list? List has more than two items, يعني three items and more. One item, two items, three items, four items, and or وعندي هنا الفورث item. خلاص. يبقى that's it. أدي like, landscape, climate, famous residence, or chief exports. يبقى that's a rule that tests you about the lists. طيب, here when I find a period among the choices, try this option first. Try this option first. Try this option first. Okay, ليه? Because we noticed that SAT likes so much the end marks. The period, the semicolon, and also comma plus one of the femboys. But if the three of them are there, يعني period, semicolon, comma plus one of the femboys, you eliminate them, the three of them. طيب, if one of them exists, try it first. طب what is the rule for the period? Independent clause and independent clause. Independent clause يعني subject to verb و complete thought. Complete thought. Okay? And here also the same thing. طيب, the SAT sometimes makes it harder a little bit by putting an introductory part here, introductory part here, and I don't care about introductory parts. By giving you non-essential information in the independent clause, but you have to focus on the subject and the verb and the complete thought in order to do what? In order to be focusing on them for you to choose the period. Let's see. Following the swing era, blah, blah, blah. So this one is incomplete. separated by a comma. So where is the subject? Cool jazz, ادي subject, emerged as yet another innovative, emerged verb, as yet another innovative style in jazz music. Okay, complete thought. حلو. وبعدين featuring, I will write featuring here. Featuring here will start a participial phrase like following, featuring large ensembles than those of their predecessors. اهي comma يبقى also this part is non-essential, introductory like this one. ها cool jazz composers ادي دي subject like Chico Hamilton emphasized, this is the verb, smooth melodies in their works. Then it's okay. What is the structure now? Introductory part, introductory phrase, وبعدين comma, independent, independent clause, then period, another introductory phrase, comma, independent. What you care about is these two independent clauses. As long as there is an independent clause on the sides of the period, خلاص, you don't have to care about the introductory parts. Okay, so it worked and the A is the right answer. طيب, let's go for this one. Here there is an important tip, a very, very important tip. Look here. Take care because I'm gonna write that now, a very important tip. It's a new question. يعني it's not new, but its trick is new. While concluding an interview for her book, Latina Authors and Their Muses, editor Maria Calvani asked Margot Candela, her editor, that's the subject, while reading, try to assign the subject. This is very important. Editor Maria asked, this is the verb, Margot asked Margot, that's the object, asked her what? Here I will find a comma, author of, يعني author of defining who is Margot. Author of young adult novel, The Brenda Diaries. Another comma. يبقى this part is non-essential information. Now, Maria asked Margot what her favorite book was, because it's a noun clause. طب ليه teacher, why didn't you say what was her favorite book and put a question mark? Because it's a noun clause. This is a noun clause. It's a part of the sentence. It's a part of a sentence. I didn't start a new sentence asking. No, it's a part of a sentence. Maria asked Margot what her favorite book was and put a period. Why didn't you, teacher, go for D? Because it's not a what? It's not a separate question. It is not a separate question. Okay, فالnoun clause يا شباب، الnoun clause دي ال structure of the noun clause. WH word زي هنا عندنا what plus السبجكت عندنا her favorite book plus الverb عندنا هنا was plus الperiod okay, that's it, plus period. You got it? Not a question mark, so we eliminate these. Not also هنا a question form, no. Was her exclamation mark? No, because I said here, Candella's response was the Phantom Tool Booth by Norton Juster. Okay, so we don't put any question marks for the noun clauses that start with, which is a part of a sentence, a part. I didn't start a new sentence. It's a part of a sentence as a noun acting as an object, لأن هي Maria asked her what. Okay, so it's acting as a noun for, it's not a question at all. Okay, طيب let's go for خلاص. These are the writing questions so far. Here, that's a graph question or quantitative evidence questions. Okay, one of them يعني. For graph questions, we focus on the last sentence if it is يعني giving you enough information, our last two sentences if the last sentence is not complete. Okay, you can skim this part quickly and you focus your يعني your answer will be focused on this last sentence since it's a very long one and it has all the elements. فهنا installing a new high-speed rail HSR hub in an area has the potential to increase residential development nearby. يعني لما يكون في عندنا high speed rail يعني قطار سريع. okay, hub in an area has the potential to boost residential development nearby. بتزود الايه التطور السكاني والنمو السكاني though the amount and type of development vary considerably by location. okay, this potential is حاضر يا كريم. yes, what do you want? Do you have a question? Yes dear.
مستر مين ممكن بس تراجع السؤال اللي فات لان انا الانترنت خرجني فما لحقتش اشوف شرح.
طيب focus بس on this question and then I'll return back to it. طيب.
حاضر.
Yes, dear. This potential is greatest. Here, notice the trend of the claim. This is the claim. خلاص? This is the claim. This potential is greatest يعني positive. يعني my answer must be positive. Must be showing the greatest. When HSR hubs are established in areas far away. يعني not hub مش في السنتر far away from city centers اهي even if you don't know the hub from city centers. okay, فهب يعني center يعني I will not go for these يعني first of all كده I will not go for these يعني هم the potential is greatest when these are ال HSR اللي هو مين ال H اللي هو ال high speed rail الترين ال high speed are established in areas far away from the city centers as these locations tend to have more available land. لما بتخرج بره السيتي بيبقى فيه بقى صحراء كبيرة ولاند كتيرة for redevelopment into residential areas. خلاص؟ طيب يبقى أنا عايزة هركز على هنا وهنا. ليه يا teacher؟ because these are centers. هنا center. أنا عايزة حاجة far away from the centers. any answer that will be related to these areas, no, will be wrong. هنا, this one, the area around Lily Europe has greater potential for residential development than the area of Regos Emilia. كده هو بيعمل لي comparison ما بين الاتنين دول. لا خالص. أنا عايزة إنه هم دول هيبقوا greater أو greatest أو greater than the other ones اللي هي في centers. Okay? The area around Lily Europe has greater potential for residential development than the area around this one. Yes. this one is in the center this one definitely will be greater يبقى this one can be related to the uh, can be related to um, the claim. The area around this one has greater potential. لا this one أصلا is center فno. The area around this one has greater potential for residential than the area برضو also no. هنا I didn't refer to ال peripheral. خلي بالكو periphery يعني far away far away. Write it down far away. Write it down in order not to forget it, because as long as you got this as a real question, it's likely for you to have these words in the real trials later. Okay. طيب يا دكتور كريم كريم, can you raise your hand? كريم ناصر. كريم ناصر.
يس يا مس.
Okay, this one.
مم.
This one, you want this one? I was saying that
اه
noun clause starts with a WH word, but it's not a question because it's a part of a sentence. It's not a question, you will eliminate the question marks, and you should end this part, the noun clause, with a period. Is it clear?
اه
That's it. يعني this is the rule اهي. WH word, subject, verb, plus period. Okay?
ماشي.
ها do you have any other question؟ اهي editor
خلاص انا
name.
كده، انا كنت بتلخبط بس بين وصف الاول ووصف الاخر، كنت فاكرها اصلا في كويشن مارك، ما ركزتش في
No, بص question mark يبقى question. لو أنا بدأت ب question بدأت I started the sentence with that question. لكن هنا what is a part of a sentence and this part is acting as a noun. It's called a noun clause. يعني editor Maria asked Margot what her favorite book was. بس her favorite book was subject to verb عادي جدا و ending with a period. Is it clear؟
اه.
Yes. إنما
ثانك يو مس.
لما مثلا أبدأ السنتنس خالص what was your favorite book خلاص يبقى كده I end it with a question mark. إنما this is a part of a statement. طيب يا دكتورة لميس. yes يا لميس. yes.
But how did you know that you actually have F?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I can't hear you at all.
Oh, is that your alarm?
I think there is a problem with your mic or your connection, but your voice is lagging a little bit.
Or could you can I write my picture on the chat
Tab,
box?
can you please send me your question privately on WhatsApp? Do you know my number? I'm the admin in the group. Send me on WhatsApp and I will answer your question definitely. طيب let's go for this one. Oh my God, that's a scary question. That's a scary. It's one of the scariest questions. Long answer choices, and yes, seems to be like complicated, a complicated reading question. Please focus. When I see which finding, I must look here whether it needs me to support or challenge or weaken or undermine. هنا which finding if true would most directly challenge, since there is challenge يعني weaken يعني oppose يعني bring the opposite of the researcher's conclusion. Where is the researcher's conclusion? Usually the conclusion or the claim or the hypothesis is stated most of the time 99% at the end of the text. The researchers concluded that after that, try to assign the main words. Shoreline hardening, one. More okay, more negatively affects to negative water birds, ادي الwater birds, than does land development for uses such as housing or agriculture. طيب, now most of us will not be able to understand this conclusion they read unless they read or go through this part. That's why we always tell you skim this part and then scan this part or focus on this part, on this conclusion, because this is what you need to oppose. But in order to understand the conclusion, you have to skim the first part. فهير Baltimore, Maryland has installed shoreline hardening structures. يعني الأماكن دي أو السيتي دي في ماريلاند عملت structures، يعني آم، تركيبات كده أو مباني علشان تقوي الشور لاين وتحميه. Okay, mainly jetties, okay, along 71% of its shoreline to protect the infrastructure from wave erosion and other hazards. Okay, يعني هو بنوا شوية كده يعني بنايات، okay, mainly jetties اللي هي rocky platforms، دي كده rocky platforms or structures، حاجة خرسانية made out of rocks and so on, in order to protect the infrastructure from wave erosion because of the waves they can erode, okay, and can be dangerous on the structures or on the buildings near the shore. They made those structures to protect the buildings. طيب, to evaluate the responses of water birds at sites in this bay on the US East Coast to shoreline hardening and other landscape alterations علشان يقيموا in order to see whether بقى these structures have any effect on the water birds، الطائرة الطيور اللي بتعيش في المية أو عند المية أو الكلام ده، whether they are affected by these structures، لأنك يعني or other landscape alterations، التغيرات اللي changes اللي بيعملوها دي changes. So Diane Prosser et al. عملوا survey الووتر أو they scanned بقى الwater bird communities consisting of 64 species. Okay, nice, to make sure they are safe, including the tundra swan, which is one of the water birds, one species of water birds. خلاص, and the great blue heron برضو, this is another species of the water birds. Utilizing the index of water bird community integrity. Integrity means healthiness. Okay, they want to make sure that they are still healthy, they are safe. Okay, they used the index to show whether they are safe or not, on which a low score corresponds a low community integrity. يعني if they see that their integrity or their health has a low score, this means that يعني there is no they are not safe in this area. The researchers, now I'm able to understand this conclusion. The researchers concluded that shoreline hardening more negatively affects word birds. يعني بيأثر الهاردنينج دول الستراكشرز اللي بتقوي الشورلاين دي affected the water birds more negatively than does land development for uses such as housing or agriculture. يعني الستراكشرز بتاعت الهاردنينج دي affected the water birds more negatively than البيلدينج العادية اللي هي العمارات أو للزراعة أو حاجة. ف these structures are affecting the birds negatively. طب I want to prove that or I want to oppose it. No, I want to oppose it. يعني إيه؟ يعني I must find the finding that says إنه لأ والله الshore hardening structures مش بتأذي مش negatively affecting water birds. اوكي، ففين بقى الانسر اللي عندها نفس المعنى ده؟ water bird communities at this site, a site with a relatively low percentage of developed land and relatively high percentage of hardened shoreline. يعني هنا high shoreline, hardened shoreline had lower average IWCI scores. low دي يعني they are not safe, not safe. طب ما كده this is supporting, this is supporting. هنا دي ال conclusion بتقول إنه more hardening structures هتبقى equal more dangerous. يعني negative، يعني low score. هي كده الكونكلوجن بتقول كده، انا عايزه عكسه. I want to challenge this. فهنا بيقول لي more، هنا high hardened يبقى more hardening و low score. طب ما كده this is support. لا، أنا I want to challenge or oppose. Water communities of this sites, these sites, two sites with relatively high percentage of land and hardened shoreline, high hardened, had similar IWCI scores, whereas waterbird communities at whatever two sites with relatively low percentage of hardened shoreline had widely different. هنا it's not related. أنا عايزة high يبقى عندي مثلا high score، يبقى high hardened structures high score كده بتoppose. إنما هنا not clear, not addressing the claim. فبيقولوا لي different وهنا similar. It's not addressing the claim. Water bird communities at Mill, this is a site with relatively low percentage of developed land and the high percentage of hardened shoreline, high hardened, had higher average scores than did water bird communities at this one, which has high percentage of developed land and lower percentage of hardened. يبقى high hardened structures, high scores of safety. This is opposing. This is opposing the conclusion. Okay, يعني I want you to rephrase this one, rephrase the conclusion علشان to understand each answer choice. This is one of the hardest questions in the trial. فاعملوا ايه؟ rephrase الكليم او الكونكلوجن، خلوها بسيطة اهي. more hardened low score, more land development high score. انا عايزة عكس ده اهو، high hardened high score و this is proving the opposite of what they want. هنا عندي هنا ايه؟ high developed land و high hardened shoreline lower scores. يبقى كده برضو بتعمل support. اوكي، يبقى دي support. This is how you answer such a question, and this is one of the hard questions in SAT. Okay. طيب ال overall structure is one of the cute questions. All what you need to do is to يعني count ال parts of each answer choice. أول ما نشوف ال overall structure count ال parts بتاع كل answer choice. أدي ده 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. طيب يبقى كده I will divide my text into 3 parts. أول حاجة sentence 1، وتاني حاجة last sentence، وthe part in the middle. كل اللي في البارت في الميدل you can take it as one unit. يبقى تعمل ازاي؟ sentence 1 ده section with last sentence ده another section. Whatever is in the middle خلاص will be taken as one unit. Then after you count اللي هو اللي choices هتعمل ايه؟ match بقى. خلاص انت عملت count وعملت divide كده التكست ده text. يبقى number 3 match بقى. هنعمل match ايه بايه؟ الفيرست sentence بالفيرست sentence بالفيرست part. خلاص اللاست sentence باللاست part والبارت in the middle with the part in the middle. بس كده. طيب هنا عندي the sign is just one of approximately 3 million known historical shipwrecks. اوكي واحدة من الحطام السفن spread throughout the world's oceans المنتشرة في oceans العالم. And their impact on sea life and underwater ecosystems is of great interest to researchers. يعني الامباكت بتاعهم اوكي يعني أثرهم على sea life and underwater ecosystems is of great interest to researchers. مهتمين جدا بالإمباكت بتاعهم. اوكي طيب make sure بقى ان الفيرست sentence دي نعمل بقى بيها ايه try to match it with the first part. استنوا نجيب الايه اليلو علشان يبقى زيها. It states the number of known shipwrecks. لا انا قلت shipwrecks بس ما عملتش غير one بس well known shipwrecks. يبقى دي one بس one shipwreck. يبقى دي wrong. خلي بالكو one part that is not matching is يعني makes the whole sentence the whole choice incorrect. خلاص it notes a general scientific interest in shipwrecks ecological effects. Maybe it's a general interest in shipwrecks. Okay, maybe it introduces a study of microbial communities near shipwrecks that has received significant scholarly attention. ما جبتش سيرة الميكروبيال communities هنا خالص. In the first sentence not mentioned. Maybe it's mentioned later بس in the first sentence no, it's not mentioned. It names a famous historical shipwreck. Okay, it names this is one famous shipwreck. Okay, no problem. So now I'm stuck between B and D. What will make me go for a certain answer إن أنا أتأكد إن the other parts are right. طيب here the second part describes a specific study related to that interest. طيب هو ده بيقول لي study. أيوة ليلى and colleagues were particularly curious about the effects of wooden shipwrecks on seafloor microbial communities. The researchers studied 2 wooden shipwrecks. يبقى هنا فعلا في study. طب هنا بيقول لي إيه؟ describes the type of wood used to build that ship. لا هنا study مش type of wood. يبقى this one is wrong. Okay, so this one is right. طيب and then states one of the study's findings. أيوة فعلا they found أهي. يبقى كده B is the best answer. طيب, let's go for this one. This one, which choice best describes the function of the underlined portion in the text as a whole? طبعا, when we're dealing with this type of question, طبعا the most important thing that can grab your attention, the presence of the word however. However is a transition, and it is a contradiction transition. This means that this part is the opposite of that part. Okay? طيب, you have to focus on the sentence that is underlined. Okay? Focus on that. But in order to understand it more, you have to read what is before in order to understand what this sentence is contradicting. Okay? We're gonna skim this part quickly كده, and then focus on the underlined one. فهنا editor Jared Sharon's anthology. Anthology means a collection of collection of books. The big book of cyberpunk contains 108 stories. يبقى حتى even if you don't know the meaning of anthology, it contains 108 stories. It's a collection of stories. An enormous number. Okay, nice. The anthology has a vast chronological scope. Chronological means in order, including both James, okay, and Lavanya, whatever. In his introduction, Sharon defines cyberpunk as a subgenre of speculative fiction concerning the influence of technology on scale, the space, or the pattern of human affairs. This is the definition of cyberpunk. This is the definition. طيب, however, many critics might be against this definition. Many critics have previously argued that cyberpunk is a literary movement that is not just idea-driven, but that has distinctive aesthetic components as well. Okay, nice. يعني it's not limited. ده عندها كمان components, has distinctive aesthetic components as well. يعني not just idea driven, not just subgenre of speculative fiction concerning the influence of technology on scale and so on. No, it has other components as well. This is a what? This is something contradicting to this definition. بس. So let's go for the choices. It points out a characteristic that is shared by the word no, because هنا أنا عندي contradiction. It explains one of several points of disagreement that an editor of cyberpunk anthology has with a group of critics. No, actually, this part, the critics are the ones who disagreed with the author. Not the editor is disagreeing with the critics. So one of several points of disagreement that an editor of cyberpunk anthology has with a group. No, this is for the critics, not for the editor. So this is a different focus. Different focus. الكريتكس هم اللي مش عاجبهم، هم اللي disagreeing، مش الeditor. It explains why means the reason. Some critics think that a particular anthology of cyberpunk stories should not be considered a definitive summary of its genre. The should, when you don't have the word should here, then this is an extreme word. أولا, no reasons. Plus should is so extreme. Okay, this is forceful. Not written, not stated. It suggests a way, okay, in which a particular editor's definition, yes, اللي قبلها, of cyberpunk may be considered incomplete. Yes, because الكريتكس قالوا it's not just idea driven, not just يعني not just دي يعني not limited, not limited as you said, but that has distinctive aesthetic components as well, يعني they add to it. This means that his definition is incomplete. And actually the word definition related يعني however related the definition to the sentence after or sentence that has that is underlined, because this is a contradiction to the definition before. These are two يعني one unit, both of them. Let's go for um, vocab in word in context questions, guys. I want you to يعني focus on them because they can be manageable and they can grant you some points, really great points. فإحنا هنا we have a overlooked in, polarizing in, essential to, knowledgeable about. Most of us are familiar with most of them, at least 3 of them. طيب, what shall we do? We can read the text. We are gonna read the text, the complete part. We have a sentence that is complete and the sentence that is not complete. أهي, that's a sentence that complete. I take from the complete part to see what is missing here. Okay? How? While I'm reading, I have to see whether this is positive or negative. Okay? And I must find equivalent meanings. يعني as if we have an equation x equal y. Okay? Here, this is x and here is y. There is a missing factor in y, but it's stated here. Okay, so let's see. Scholars of Mexican literature have focused their attention on writers of the fertile period. Fertile period means a rich period. Following the Mexican Revolution, which lasted from such as Laura Esquivel. These writers are often considered the leading figures of Mexican literary canon. But هنا بقى مش equal. طالما في contradiction يبقى I must see what can I يعني can complete my sentence. But 19th century writers, okay guys, 19th century writers like Antonio, يعني that's another one, other other than Laura, okay, are just as okay as a Mexican literature, as important. يعني هم دايما بيركزوا على الرايترز في الحقبة دي، اوكي، الريتش بيريود ده، وهم يعتبروا the leading figures. لكن in 19th century writers like Antonio Menendez okay are just as a I was saying they are important as leading figures ما طالما في similarity. وهنا I was saying ان هم leading figures in the Mexican literature. فين بقى؟ overlooked in, no, overlooked يعني ignored. polarizing يعني making two different sides or two different groups كأنهما poles كده, two different يعني two different sides أو two different groups. Okay, polarized is not the right answer because كده كأن each group will have its own بقى its own يعني interests divided into certain distinctive groups. Essential to leading figures, essential to knowledgeable about. I didn't talk about how they are informed about. No, I didn't say that they are informed about or have the knowledge about the Mexican literature. They are leading figures of the Mexican literature. But in 19th century writers برضو اللي هم like Antonio Menendez are just as leading figures or are just as essential in the or to the Mexican literature. This one, several scholars of children's literature recently to discuss the work of Sharon Bell Mathis, author of such loaded books as Ray Charles. طيب, this is the complete sentence. The other sentence بقى that is missing something. Once together, they talked about hairstyle, not the complete, I mean this is the incomplete. Once together, they talked about hairstyle, influences, and themes. Okay, يبقى several scholars recently what? To discuss the work of Sharon Bell Mathis. يعني بيتشاوروا وبيدسكس الورك بتاع الauthor دي. Once together they talked about هي discuss. Okay. طيب, what can be يعني try بقى each option. Okay, try each option. Now we have here a stipulated. Stipulated means what, guys? Stipulate, when I say stipulate, means stipulated يعني demanded, required. لازم نكتب الكلمات دي. Okay? فهنا try بقى to drag each one. Several scholars of children's literature recently demanded to discuss or required to discuss work. No one required, no one demanded. Convened. What does it mean, convened? If you don't know, keep it. Cited. Cited يعني referred to discuss. Ascribed. What's the meaning of ascribed? Means assigned يعني حددوا. assigned to discuss. assigned mean to discuss. these cannot be referred برضو to mean or referred to what. since this will not make any sense and stipulated يعني demanded أو required, no demands here. Convened can be the right answer, and while you don't know the meaning of convened. Convened here means met or assembled. Met, assembled. ايه البتاع once together هي اهو once together they met, assembled, اجتمعوا, okay, to discuss. يبقى these are clues. Now we have here Travers. Yes, some people are raising their hands. May I know why? Lujain, yes?
Miss, I had a question in number 1 where I didn't understand why we still chose C.
Yes, I explained it, right?
Yes, but
يعني overlooked in يعني ignored. This is so negative. Okay? Because I said here as يعني this means that like they are similar. Or this writer is similar. You got it? يعني those scholars always focus on these writers where you know whom Laura is one of them. Okay?
okay, but why is the word but there? It just confuses me.
Yes, it is meant to confuse, of course, the students, but here I'm saying إنه they focus on these writers to be the leading figures, but the 19th century writers like Antonio, whoever, are just as leading in the Mexican literature as those ones mentioned. Is it clear? يعني those ones maybe are less mentioned or something like that. They are saying are just as, you know, essential to Mexican literature as well. You got it? أصل the other options will not work. The other options will not work. No division for polarizing, no ignoring, يعني as ignored, no. As ignored, as overlooked. طب ما هو they are not, the previous ones are not overlooked. Is it clear? Knowledgeable about, informed about. We didn't talk about how much knowledge they have. That's why. فبما إن عندي as which is similarity, that's why. Yes يا جنى.
ميس بس مش فيه contradiction.
Yes, but here I'm saying إنه contradiction here is not meant to be if as isn't there, okay, but as is there. يعني like when I say to you, you're always talking to Mona, but okay, you're always talking to Mona, but مثلا Maha is just as important in the class. Is it clear?
Okay.
That's it.
Yes. Thank you.
Anytime. Traverse and decimate and circumvent. وطبعا circumvent دي لو انتوا تفتكروا, if you can remember, this is in, يعني this word is in the first practice test on the College Board site. Circumvent means go around or avoid. Decimate means kill or destroy. Preserve means keep. And traverse means go through. And cross or cross through. يقطع يعني. Cross through. Let's see which one can be fitting in here. Whereas researchers long thought that Congo rainforest constrained the initial expansion of Bantu-speaking peoples, which today include Korea and Tanzania, and Shona in Zimbabwe, across sub-equatorial Africa. Recent studies, recent studies إيه بقى? Because I have here whereas ده contradiction على طول. Recent studies indicate that early Bantu communities managed to what the rainforest, يعني whereas they long thought in the Congo constrained, okay, يعني limited, prevented. So this is contradiction. So what is the opposite of prevented? Whereas they thought إنه rainforest limited أو prevented the expansion, امتداد Bantu speaking peoples. They prevented, rainforest prevented the peoples from expanding, from spreading. Reading studies indicate that early Bantu communities, peoples يعني دول, managed to the rainforest, يعدوا من rainforest, a feat facilitated by drier conditions that opened up viable corridors through the vegetation. أهي opened up through the vegetation, through the rainforest. يبقى قدروا إن هم يعدوا, go through, cross through. مش kill, مش go around, بالعكس this is opposite. Go around يعني they avoided, لا they went through. Keep, no keeping. Let's go for this one, and this has to do with the main idea. I guess this is the يعني last two questions خلاص. الquestion ده ask you عن main idea. main idea is just a general question. Focus on the beginning and the end. Okay? طيب, what is about the middle? If you have several details in the middle, يعني try to cover the majority of them. Don't focus on one of them. on one detail. لا, because I want the main. طيب, here Harold Newton's Yellow Day, a wetland landscape. يعني this is a name of a landscape with palm trees and lush greenery set against the pastel yellows and pinks of the sky and water, is typical of paintings by mid-20th century landscape artists now known as Florida highwaymen. يعني كل الحاجات اللي بتوصف بقى اللاندسكيب والسكاي والحاجات دي كلها is a typical paintings by those artists known as Florida highwaymen. طيب, even though Florida was rapidly being developed at the time, tourists in particular held the idea that its distinctive tropical and coastal environments represented a pristine means fresh, okay, untouched, يعني pure, a natural world untouched by modernity. يعني حاجة كده بخيرها، landscape بخير وما فيش ايه not ايه untouched by modernity، يعني الحداثة ما طلتوش وبوظته. فاللاندسكيب هناك جميلة في فلوريدا. As with many highwaymen paintings, the appeal of Yellow Day derived from its ability to capture this sentiment. The ability of this painting or these paintings to capture the beauty of the nature, the description of the nature. I started positively and I ended positively. That's nice. طبعا هنا البيل اوف يلو داي ده البينتينج، يعني اللي هي زي البينتينجز بتاعت الهايواي مان. طيب, let's go for the choices. Although many paintings by Florida highwaymen have subjects in common, Yellow Day is now more, when I see more than يبقى كده wrong لأن I don't have this comparison here or there. I don't have. More highly regarded by critics, not mentioned. Although Yellow Day and the other paintings by Florida highwaymen were originally celebrated for their depictions of Florida's natural environments, art historians now question such a negative word, no questions. Tourists to Florida in mid-20th century were more likely to admire the sentiments expressed in Yellow Day and similar paintings than Florida residents were. A comparison between tourists and residents is not mentioned. زي ما قلت لكم comparison is a sign of a wrong answer لو مش موجودة. Yellow Day and the other paintings by Florida highwaymen were notable for their ability to appeal to a popular conception about the state of Florida in the mid-20th century, and this is so positive about يعني what is there and what is there. Okay? طيب, let's go for this one, the last question. This is the last question. This one has to do with the main idea as well. عرفنا ازاي how to answer the main idea. Here, the last sentence. This is the last sentence. And this is the first sentence. Okay, and there is one detail. So our answer will be like covering all of them since it's only one detail. Your answer, if it is related to this detail only, this will be very specific and will be wrong. Here, the text is talking about mushrooms, including CM and the species from the genus Cantharellus, are known to use the process of evapotranspiration. يعني جاية من evaporation، بنستخدم evaporation for respiration to maintain internal temperatures below ambient temperatures. Ambient يعني surrounding. They are using a certain process to keep their internal temperatures أقل below من surrounding temperatures. كأنها ايه بتبرد نفسها كده. This hypothermic. طبعا كلمة hypo يعني below أو low. اوكي، يعني خليها كده فاكرينها. which is opposite to opposite to opposite to ايه؟ hyper يبقى high. افتكروها كده. hypo low، hyper high. اوكي، hypo low. اوكي. Hypothermic behavior is enhanced by the many thin gills on the fungi caps with substantial surface area contributing to capacity for evaporation. Okay, يعني ال evaporation بتhelp these plants to lower their temperature. Examining fungal thermoregulation mechanisms, those guys determined the molds and yeasts also engage in evaporative cooling to facilitate hypothermia and suggest that lacking features analogous to الجلز دي, these unicellular fungi aggregate يعني collect into colonies أو aggregate يعني gather into colonies to derive the benefit of greater surface area. يعني I started positively about a certain process that lowered the temperature for the species. وهنا برضو في examination للمولds والyeasts. اوكي، علشان they engage in برضو similar process of evaporative cooling. Okay. And suggest that lacking features analogous to lamella، يعني ان هم ما عندهمش حاجة زي الجلز دي اللي في المشرومز. These unicellular fungi gather each other علشان to overcome ان هم ما عندهمش الجلز into colonies to derive the benefit of greater surface area. فعندهم greater surface area فكلهم متجمعين يعملوا نفس evaporation، حرارتهم تقل. طيب let's go for the choices بقى. المين idea. Although certain thermoregulation process has been observed in colonies of unicellular fungi, it has yet to be observed at individual organism level. Not mentioned this kind of negativity, not mentioned. Okay, not mentioned. Even the only negative thing in هما they lack features similar to lamella, which are the gills. إنما not بقى observed at individual organism level, no, not mentioned. A recent analysis of specimens of Coprinellus M and the species from genus Canthurellus substantiated the findings of easier studies of thermoregulations mechanism in several types of fungi. No, not mentioned. We didn't find that. Where are the several types of fungi? Several types, all what we mentioned, like the mushrooms here, and we have here those molds and yeasts. We don't have these earlier studies at all related to several types. A study of a fungal thermoregulation mechanism determined that it is used more efficiently by molds and yeast than, I told you, when you have a comparison that is not there, don't choose it. Despite significant differences in their biological structure, mushrooms, molds, and yeasts have been observed to utilize the same thermoregulation process to achieve a particular effect اللي هي lowering their temperature. ايه هي ال same process اللي هي ال evaporation evapotranspiration. وايه هي despite their significant differences in the structures ان هما they lack they lack الجلز دي اللاميلا دي they lack فدي they are different in يعني mushrooms have these gills while these are lacking these features بس they are observed to use the same process. يبقى yes, this one has to do with the general part اللي هي ال beginning وال end. Okay, so we're done. وخلي بالكم هنا we have طبعا in our sessions بس علشان دي free session we don't have enough time. In our regular sessions إن شاء الله we have يعني March course is one of the longest courses. We're gonna يعني try to cover everything, all the strategies. يعني I prepared for you brief strategies كده for each type. كل type you will have certain يعني quick summary for all the strategies to handle all the types of questions. Okay, briefly كده you study the strategy and then you apply on the questions. طبعا every time, every session we have a test and we are gathering. وأنا I showed you ما شاء الله ما شاء الله the scores عاملة ازاي. يعني once you know the weaknesses and يعني you will be wrapping up the basics together with answering the most recent questions in the course. And from these questions, inshallah, you can be finding similar ones in the coming trial. Inshallah, to have such amazing scores like the ones we have seen so far. Inshallah, I will post the video with the amazing scores and everything. And I wish you the best of luck and see you, inshallah, next Friday in our first official session in the March course, the SAT prep course. Please contact Miss Fadwa in order to register your name and start with us next Friday. Friday and Saturday, inshallah, will be our timings, and we will have some extra sessions for more practice, inshallah, to get the highest scores. Yes, ya Lamis? You sent me, did you send me the question?
Yeah,
طيب,
exactly.
I will check the, can you send me now, like a private message once again? Because I got like several messages now. يعني if I show you the WhatsApp, my WhatsApp, you will be يعني startled by the amount of messages. Okay? Please don't hesitate to reach me privately to ask me about whatever you want. Thank you so much, guys. The recording will be posted on YouTube. Please subscribe to my channels on the various media channels, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, in order to see the whole video of this course. Thank you. See you.